Well, hello, everyone. Hello, my fellow sensitive people. Look what I've got. The first thing I'm going to do is show off the great microphone. And as you can see, we can control the sound. So if people need me to go up or down on the volume, of course, I'm happy to do that. But you're not here to talk about my microphone, are you? Today, we're doing a special get together with the amazing Susan Lynn Psychic Medium. She is in the house. We've got her for the next hour, and we are extremely excited about this.
I'm excited.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. How are we doing on the sound on your end? Do we need to turn it up a little bit there? How are we doing?
No, everything sounds good. Sounds good for you?
Yep, I just turned it up. So the first thing that everybody wants to know every time I bring somebody on here and interview them is, how did you come to be you? How did you come to be how did you know that this was your calling? What happened because we've talked enough to where I know this is your calling, but how did you first find out that it was your calling?
That's funny. I think I'm like the reluctant psychic and medium. When I was a child, I could see ghosts. I could see, dead people. But it wasn't, it's not like something you go and tell mom. And after a while, she doesn't want to hear about that. Right. So I'll tell you, for me personally, it was not great. I didn't see people that were reassuring or welcoming. I just saw strange energies and entities. So basically, I just closed it up. Like I tell people, I put the blinds down, I put the close sign out, I closed all the lights out and hid in the closet. So that's what I did for the majority of my life, honestly. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, over the years, my friends learned that I could sense ghosts. And so they started encouraging me, but I still didn't want to do it because I didn't really know. I had to learn boundaries, right? You have to learn boundaries. When dead people can just walk in and start talking to you like Joe could, you have to learn boundaries with not only the real people, the Joes, but you have to learn boundaries with the ghost and the dead people. So I had to learn that. That was part of my process of being able to do this and being able to accept it, right? But then my spirit guides really started talking to me. So I have a pretty much one-on-one relationship with them. They talk to me almost every day, usually over what I eat. Because I've empowered them to help me with my diet. But I'm not kidding. But what happened was they told me, and this is the great story about it, about the YouTube thing. So I started doing readings and then the YouTube thing, here I am eating a donut, and I don't eat them. Like I said, I eat them like 3 times a year, but I love donuts. So yeah. I'm eating a donut, a chocolate covered donut. And I take a bite and I'm just, chilling out. And I hear them say, we're going to do this, right? And I'm like, yeah, what are we going to do? What are you talking about? Eating my donut. And they're like, well, the YouTube thing. And I'm like, yeah, because, I had been putting them off. I'm like, I have free will. You can't make me. So I kept eating my donut. And they said, well, we just want to let you know that we're going to do this fat or thin. It's up to you. We don't care. We love you either way. Peace out. They were gone. I was like holding my donut going, oh my God, they're serious about this. So yeah, that's how I got here and I started having what I referred to very grossly actually as psychic diarrhea, where I couldn't hold it in, like it would just come out. And then people would say, well, how did you know that? And so then I would have to tell them. So, we think we have free will, but I think at some point in our life, when we're supposed to do something, it's whether it's contractual or, whatever, from your Akashic records, you're going to do it. There's a lot of free will involved in many things, but then there's some things that you just have to do. Yeah. So here I am.
Well, we're very happy you're here. And let people know, full disclosure, Susan Lynn, you've actually been very kind to me. You help moderate for me. You keep the bad people. You protect me on Sunday.
There is absolutely no bad people on those live chats. Truly, I've never seen anything bad happen, but I'm there.
We're good people. Yeah. Now, can you remember the first time you actually gave a reading to someone, whether it was professional or so? And like I always give the story about going to camp when I was 15 years old and dressing up in a costume because we had a carnival at camp, and reading someone's palm because I was playing a palm reader, and then having the vision that the girl was going to be lured into a red car by somebody. Like that actually happened to me while I was goofing off doing card readings.
Wow.
And then the following year, she told me I was right and that she did not get into that car.
Wow. But at the
had
time,
pulled up. She and some of her friends were walking to school. They walked to school together, and a car with a guy in it pulled up, trying to get them into the
oh
car.
my God.
Like within weeks, like when they went back to school.
Wow.
So I think also for readers, we have those experiences too, like what you had said, where we'll have we don't necessarily have free will, like you had said. It's just we have these experiences, they happen, and then, as Oprah Winfrey says, you have to listen when it's a whisper so it doesn't become a shout.
That's really good advice, people. I tell people, don't be like me. Don't be like Susan. But that's great. So when you read her palm, did you have that feeling that we sometimes get that like this something special's going on here, you know?
I've had really strange things happen to me. Like, I know you're a medium. I have experienced possession. I have had that. And I have partial possession of people that are alive all the time because I'm a heart-centered remote viewer.
Right.
Kind of how,
Right.
but that's kind of the Bon Tibetan technique of empathy. You know, sometimes you'll take you'd asked about some of the excuse me, some of the training. You can take an inanimate object like my cat's picture or something, and you can sit in meditation and imagine compassion emanating from you to the object, or you can take a statue of Kuan Yin and try to emanate what you think are the attributes of Kuan Yin. That's kind of the early training in like the Bon technique, so that you can begin to feel empathy for another person. So I just started trying the different techniques from the different schools, and what surprised me was how well they work. You know, have you ever done like an HCRV technique or some other empathy technique and then been shocked at how much detail you got?
Yes, I have. I'm not as good as you. You know, I was able to join that one. You were doing those kind of classes in the evenings, and I joined the one for Putin. And so that's what's fascinating about doing those, is because you have to learn discernment, right? Like many of the people in the class were getting blue eyes, or we were getting things that made sense for Putin, but I got this feminine energy that I couldn't figure out, like it didn't make any sense, right? And then when you told me Putin and I put a few other things together, it made more sense. But it's just fascinating, really.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is fascinating. And I think how the brain can connect with other brains,
Yes.
or how hearts can connect with other hearts. I think that just absolutely fascinates me. And I do document everything. I put things in journals, the date and the time when I received the information. And then I do record. And so if I fall on my face and I'm wrong, and I have been wrong, then I have to wipe my face off and say, okay, why was I biased? But then I have gifts happen. Like I think of Michael Cohen letting me in that day as the day when, as a skeptic, I was proven wrong, because he gave such precise detail about whose signature, when, how, the raid, that it simply wasn't information I had any access to, other than something happened in the meditative state. The same when we got information about the federal government suppressing data on workers being exposed to COVID. That was the other thing we documented, where I said, okay, this is real. We're actually, but I don't totally understand how this works. Have you ever been in an experience where you documented a premonition or something like that, and then you know, because you're like me, you're pretty cynical, I can tell. You're like very grounded. Have you ever like looked at the data you're collecting and say, this can't be real?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you give
Yeah.
an example of something that happened, like where that happened to you?
where I said it couldn't be real, but it happened.
Yeah, like you documented a premonition or a psychic hit.
I saw the two senators in Georgia runoff winning from the day they announced the runoff, but I didn't see it. What happened was my guides told me that that was going to happen. So what I think is really important for all of us to, you guys watching, is this discernment thing, right? So the voice that they used to tell me that was a little bit different voice. It had a deeper, heavier resonance to it. It just felt very, very assured. And, you know, of course, I would go back to them almost every day and say, are you sure this is going to happen? You know? And so it gave me this kind of weird confidence that I almost didn't want to even talk about it. It's like, they're going to win, you know? But they told me the reason they were going to win was, and this is kind of weird and fascinating, is that it was kind of a karmic gift, right? It was a karmic gift that the Senate needed to be 50-50 and Kamala Harris was going to be the tiebreaker. And that's what I kept saying in the videos, 50-50 Kamala Harris is going to be the tiebreaker. And that's exactly just what happened recently. She came in to be the tiebreaker. So, but you know, then on other situations, I get Mitch McConnell wrong all the time. And they finally schooled me on that. And they showed me, because I'm like, why do you tell me, or why do I get this impression that Mitch McConnell's going to do this and then he does that? You know, how is that possible? And they showed me he has such intense free will. So, you know, psychically, if you're reading the energy and I'm standing on the outside, you're standing on the inside. That's a whole different thing, guys. Remote viewing, she's on the inside seeing their true motivations as she is in their body. I'm standing on the outside looking at the energy around them, their motivations from an outside kind of angle. And they told me, you know, Mitch McConnell is the kind of guy that if his house is burning down and you're thinking, okay, his house is on fire, I see it, it's burning down, he's not going to have a house. Somehow he gets the fire department there at the 11th hour and saves part of it and sets up his office in it. I mean, he just, the energy he won't let the energy change him. His will, his free will, his stubbornness continues on. I hope that made sense. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first time I was asked to go in and basically, you know, be, be Mitch McConnell, you know, doing that whole merging, because love is the way to get in, right? So we always go through the fourth chakra, but the what amazed me being in that perception of like, now I am that person. That's the goal of empathy, is if you really want to see what it truly is to be in that person's skin. And it really has taught me a lot about myself, to my own biases, because I always think I'm right, but I see the part of myself that is like Donald Trump. The part of me that always feels like I can't get a break, people use me, they take advantage. Obviously, those things exist in my own heart, or I wouldn't be able to connect with it and have empathy. But with Mitch McConnell, he was strange, because when I went in, I found that I was so singular in my motivation. And I kept hearing myself say to the, you know, prefrontal cortex observer, which is, you know, the part of me that remains me is that objective person watching the possession and documenting it.
Wow.
And I remember Mitch McConnell saying, it's all about the courts. It's all about the courts, all about the courts, all about the courts.
You even sound like him.
Of course, my God. You become them. It's all about
the courts. Right.
But what about this? What about, it's all about the courts, it's all about the courts, all about the courts. So that helped me, because one of the other things I have found as a remote viewer is that people have OCD. They will become, every single person, it seems like, that I've been remote viewing has OCD. If you go into Mitch McConnell, it's all about the courts, it's all about the courts, all about the courts. If you go into Trump's energy, he doesn't see his behavior. He projects it. It's all, everybody's picking on me. Everybody's using me. Everyone uses my name to get ahead. What I did for the Republican Party, picking on me. He sees himself not as the bully, but as the victim.
As the victim.
Right. He has no conscious understanding that everyone is not out to get him. But because he believes it's real, that's why he likes hurting everybody. Because in his mind, he believes everyone is picking on him. He's working out his issues with his mommy and daddy. And he really thinks he saved the Republican Party because, boy, it was in the before I came along because of Junior. I mean, he believes this is real. So that's kind of what blows me away. And also the parts of myself that can relate to it. It makes, the Dalai Lama says, if you can learn these techniques, it'll make you a better person. And it's really true because you say, wow, I kind of do that too. Maybe not to the extreme of some sort of personality disorder, but I definitely have narcissistic traits. I'm very open about it, actually. It's like, yeah, that's my narcissism, got to feed the beast. But yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about it. I have a couple questions about like spirit guides. Do you remember the first time you ever heard the voice? And did you have a ritual? Did something happen? And did the voice identify itself? Did you hear a name? Like, and can you talk a little bit about that and spirit guides and how that came about for you?
Sure. So, I think when I really got connected to them was when I started doing meditations, right? And so for me, I'm the kind of person that I work better with a guided meditation, which means they talk to you through the meditation. And I can go into a trance. I can go into a trance very quickly. So I can go into a deep meditation very quickly. So once I find one that resonates with me, you just go to YouTube and you can try hundreds of them. Once you find one that resonates with you, then you just get comfortable and, maybe not lay down, but maybe comfortable sitting. And then you just listen to it with headphones is probably best. And you go with it. You have to relax and you have to go with it. And then the second thing you have to do is you have to trust it. So, when you come out of it, write down, or sometimes I actually would take my phone and I would just record what I'm seeing and hearing while in the meditation. Because I don't want to break the connection sometimes. Right. When you break the connection, sometimes you're like, well, then your ego mind can get involved, right? And then it can start telling you that it was all a dream, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that can happen with that.
Right. So I use my prefrontal cortex, my observer. I stand back and I observe, particularly if I've been asked to follow energy. Like when I followed the energy of how this is going to end with Donald Trump, I saw something that looked like the Great Depression. I saw the system collapsing.
I saw that too.
I saw homeless people, poverty, infrastructure collapse, and problems with the, because if you don't do anything to help Gaia, we will have an increase in global warming and every awful thing that happens with that. And also if Republicans are not taking care of Americans' basic needs. So I had a pretty good idea when I followed the energy where we were headed, and it wasn't good. And I think a lot of Americans had a really bad feeling, obviously. So you can follow the energy and say, well, based on what I'm seeing here, the person who's most aligned with this disaster that can get us out of here, that can communicate with the boys of Oklahoma and can communicate with the boys on the farm. The person perfect for that job is Elizabeth Warren because she's from Oklahoma. She knows these folks, and they won't be threatened. They won't call her an elitist. So I always felt like she was perfect for the job because of where we were headed. But it turned out it was Joe Biden. So sometimes I think there's a difference between observing energy and then you have to come up with a summary of what you think is going to happen, and that's a prediction. And free choice. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a little bit harder than it looks sometimes. I think the easiest thing for us to do, frankly, is readings for other people, because we're able to step aside. I mean, that's kind of the observer mode you're talking about. I step aside and then whatever, people's crossed over loved ones or spirit guides come through. But when we're looking for ourselves, for instance, at what is going to happen to Donald Trump, with the trial, it's very hard to get the ego out of it. It's very hard to get our own emotions, our own wants and wishes out of it. And that's where I think it is just really hard to do this kind of work, right? I think that's why we turn to tarot cards too, because that definitely takes us out of the equation.
So the first time you heard your spirit guide's voice, how old were you?
You know what? It was about 10 years ago. So it was, I was probably in my 40s. So, not very young, but like I said, this whole thing really, for whatever reason, it really intimidated me, and it made me, like you said, I'm a grounded person. I do have some water signs in me, but I'm pretty grounded. So I don't take well to flying. I don't like roller coasters. You know what I mean? I kind of like to know what's going to happen. So, when dead people show up and start talking to you, it just feels, I'll tell you, actually, the first time it ever happened to me, I was in my 30s, and we were a group of friends, and we were outside of this Victorian house because my friend owned the house, and we were coming back from having, dinner, and it was dark, and everybody's just chatting, right? And I was standing there, and all of a sudden there's this window up in the top, and this is a Victorian house that's about 100 years old. In this window, the light is on, and I could just all of a sudden see this woman on a sewing machine. And I somehow was like mesmerized, like literally like just drawn in, right? And then she came down and got in my energy, and I could feel such grief and sadness. I mean, literally it took over my whole body, and I felt violated. To be honest with you, I felt violated because I didn't want to feel her energy, right? And I didn't feel like I had a choice. I felt like I got sucker punched, right? Mm-hmm. So I told them, I grabbed somebody and I said, there's a ghost up there and she's on a sewing machine and she just attacked me, and they said, oh yeah. And they had lots of stories about her. I mean, she was very famous because she was in the guest bedroom, and all their guests had to deal with her because she had some things that she did. But, so that experience again caused me to push back because I didn't know my boundaries. I didn't have the ability or even the knowledge, the thought. Hello, Susan, you need boundaries. You know what I mean? If, you don't walk around, allowing these things to come in.
You know what my biggest boundary is? Boredom.
Boredom.
I mean, like, I was really excited about when I made contact with Putin doing HCRV, because when you catch a spirit, when you do this type of work, this is kind of shamanic, you feel it, and you feel yourself working with the energy and playing with what the response, and you're having a great time. And I thought, this is fantastic. I'm going to get all this great information from Putin and all these deep, intimate experiences we're going to share together. And OCD, just like Mitch McConnell, it's all about the courts. It's all about the courts. With Putin, it's all about trade routes. It's all about I want my trade routes. Get out of Afghanistan. It's like, oh, okay, like, I get it. You want, but let's talk about, your philosophy. Yeah, my philosophy, whatever. I'm trying to get my trade out, you see. And so it became so repetitive after a while that I stopped working with that energy because I wasn't learning anything. It's like, okay, I'll deliver the information, like I'll record, I'll document, YouTube. And then we found out about the Turkish stream and Belarus and Ukraine and how he was trying to get this. But that was all he cared about.
What's amazing with your RVs is that we learn about this stuff months in advance. And then when everybody else learns about it, I feel like, where have you been? Why didn't you know about that? And then they look at me like I'm crazy. And I realize that my source is not CNN. So, I've known about this for a while, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that was also why I couldn't really understand, because I kept going down and I was following energy streams like money streams and things like that. And I was like finding out all kinds of money streams and ways that people were communicating money streams. And I would come back up and I would want to report, and people like ask me, what's Bob Mueller up to? Who cares? Right, what are y'all focusing on that for? That's got nothing to do with what's going on. It's got nothing to do with what's going on in Belarus and the Ukraine, or the real reason why we're backing the Kurds who are blocking that road. and then Turkey comes in and takes it because Turkey's gonna plow forward. I mean, it had nothing to do with caring about the Kurds. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but it's always goes back to the same thing. And I think it's true. Americans really don't get the news. And I see that a lot. Like I'll get a hit. I don't know if this happens for you too, where I'll get a hit and I'll document like, oh, that's why they were doing it. Kim Jong-un.
Yes. Yes.
Kim Jong-un's another one.
Yes.
Yes,
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And when we got the hit on his sister, that was a year and a half ago.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So she was not very friendly, and she wasn't very friendly to her brother, but we didn't, the world didn't know what she had been planning.
That's right. But you did.
And you did, right? Because we were getting the hits, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, months later, the news comes out and I can't get excited about it because I've already, you've already told me, or the guides have already told me. It's very interesting. It's weird, really.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think that human beings are a lot more powerful and that our minds are more powerful. It's like we've been dumbed down by central governments, or everything has been centralized and people have become so controlled that we've lost, I think, a certain sense of our innate intuition, our wisdom, and our ability to figure things out. People don't trust themselves, and I think they should. I think if we trusted ourselves more, and if we did these types of meditations, we would realize that we're a lot smarter than we give ourselds credit for. So.
We would. The guides have told me over and over again, had cell phones not come when they did, we as a human race would be closer to using telepathy.
Huh.
Because that's kind of what you're doing. We would be using our energetic abilities instead of technology. And technology, they say, is kind of a crutch for us, because we'd be forced to use our own, abilities.
Right. The first thing I think about when I think of cell phones is that what cell phones did to push the human rights movement forward.
No, fantastic. I mean, social media. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the good part.
Yeah.
All right, so I thought we would throw a couple of cards while I got you here. So, so what do you think about what's going on? The big questions everybody wants to talk about is the impeachment trial starts tomorrow. What are your feelings about it? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Before we'll throw cards, but I just want your opinion before we get started. How do you think this is going to end?
Well, so that's the thing. My guides told me this is another one of those times where the energy feels like it did when they talked about the two senators in Georgia winning the runoffs. The guides told me he's not going to get impeached. And then that makes my viewers upset, which I understand. It makes me upset too. I always tell them, look, Susan would be walking around cussing. This is not normal reaction for me, because I'm connected, right? So they told me that. What I see happening is the guides show me, so the great thing would be is if we, like you said in your remote view yesterday, we need to have this trial where evidence is presented, where really, truly first person accounts are given, video is shown, like a real court trial with witnesses, because America needs to know all of that, maybe in one, package, instead of getting a news thing there and getting a news thing there, where you can kind of swallow it in small bites. But I think if they got it all in one big package, it might make a difference, it might make a difference in some of these people. So I think the purpose of the trial is exposure, is to help us understand on a different level what happened. I agree with you that Mitch McConnell wants Trump gone. Look, Liz Cheney wants Trump gone. They all want Trump gone, and they actually want Boebert gone, and they want Marjorie Taylor Greene gone, because they're splitting up. That's splitting up the Republican Party. But my question to you is that, so for Mitch McConnell to vote against Trump would seem to be, it seems like Trump has something over Mitch McConnell, right? I mean, why wouldn't he vote in his best interest? If his best interest is to get rid of Trump, then why isn't he doing it? right? So there must be a split. He must have two competing things happening. You know, he wants to do it, but he's not allowed to do it.
Don't you think that has to do with the fact that he's the senator of Kentucky, and that people in Kentucky, a lot of them love Trump? I mean,
I see, I'm from Kentucky, actually. I haven't lived there since I was 18, but you know, Kentucky's a lot like Texas or other red states, where the main city in Kentucky is urban, has always been urban. It's always been very mixture of different cultures and minorities and different kinds of people, and it's very Democrat. And it's a great city. It's Louisville. Now the rest of the state is red, and some of it is very rural, right? But the truth of the matter is, when you really look at the numbers, these Democratic cities are bringing the votes. So I think people in Kentucky actually are going to challenge Mitch McConnell on how he got the votes he got, considering that the exit polls and the polling showed that he really should have lost. So I think it's the Russia connection. I think Russia, Putin has dirt on these various people, you know, and that's why they have to do what they have to do. So I think Mitch is in a vice. I kind of see him being kind of torn apart by two competing interests. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I remember when I first started doing remote viewings a couple of years back, and the real investigation for our intelligence agencies in Europe was compromised people.
Yes.
You know, they were following the money, and the perfect person to be compromised is someone who needs money, who has questionable morals, and and has enough power to have a positive influence on Russia. But it's not just Russia. I mean, it's lobbyists.
That's true too.
It goes back to a lot of stuff came out in remote viewings. The real reason that they probably got rid of Al Franken was because he was very concerned about what they were doing with private armies. They wanted to privatize the military, get rid of the military, which has morals and values and ethics, and they have to adhere to the Geneva Pact. And there's a certain how you treat war criminals, war prisoners, etc. So what they did is they were basically creating soldiers of fortune that could protect supply chains, etc. And hey, why not also supply for everybody that's going to be going through these trade routes? So if you're blocking my trade, and if we'll just send you back from Afghanistan. We'll send in a contracting company. All the countries that are doing trade will pay together, right? Mm-hmm. And then we'll have Putin's private armies coming. And Putin's been doing this. Other countries have been doing this to secure trade in these trade routes. So I think that it all goes back to trade and wanting to be able to open up trade and wanting to make money, and what are American values?
Right.
American values appear to be how to get the trade out. So then you have Putin with the oil, America with the oil, competing oil, burn in California, which has destroyed the ecosystem of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, turning into desert, uninhabitable because of all the methane, fires everywhere. So it was kind of, for me, and also after reading Rachel Maddow's book, it just made me realize it's all been about oil and trade routes. It had nothing to do with saving the world, America being a great nation. It had nothing to do with that. Just
money.
And I didn't I didn't really truly consciously realize that was all this was until I had that experience with Putin.
Wow.
Because that was what he kept saying. Trade. Like, oh, God, this dumb American, she's useless. And which is also what I felt when I got into Joe Manchin's energy to some extent. Oh, this liberal, she's so useless.
Right.
Because I really wanted to learn, what does West Virginia need? What does West Virginia, and another northern liberal idiot,
right,
who probably spent her entire life at the university living in La La Land, I mean, that was kind of the energy I had from the person, Joe Manchin. Like,
Wow.
what do you think the main issue is in West Virginia, Whimsy? Jobs, employment, moron. There's only one issue in West Virginia, Whimsy: jobs. But I was so struck by that I went, whoa, this is really helping me culturally understand, because I don't have who am I to say what the people of West Virginia need? Like I'm the great white hope or something. I'm going to go in and save the people of. I have no idea. I've never been to West Virginia. So to assume that I know Joe Manchin's situation or his constituents or what he needs to do to fix this mess, because it's one of the poor, it may be even the poorest state.
It is. Yeah, it's bad. That in Mississippi.
Yeah, I think you really don't understand. And his point, I think, in the meditation was if you haven't been there and if you don't understand, don't think you know why I have to make the choices I make. You're not in my situation. You don't even understand what my constituents need. These people can't even afford a toothbrush. You know, they need jobs. So I think that what happened with Joe Manchin is that he must have made some kind of a deal, the Green Deal, that he convinced them that they weren't full of it. Because well, the other impression I got from Joe Manchin is that I'll see it to believe it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. They've been left in the dark and the dust. I mean, West Virginia is where on the map? You know, probably 48th in education. You know what I mean? It's a left behind state, frankly.
Abandoned, as they say.
Abandoned. Yeah.
All right. So I thought we would go ahead. We can do the empath prayer, and then you want to do some this? Woohoo!
Yeah.
Now, did you have a prayer you like, or do you want to?
No, I love your empath prayer.
Everybody likes the empath prayer. It's a popular prayer. Okay, so we'll do it real quick, and then let's throw on the trial.
Okay.
We'll do that one first. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. All right, I want to call on white light protection for myself and Susan Lynn as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and good angels to be with us. Give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower both of us on our journey, to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, for the planet, for the people we love, but even to help those we may have strife with. And together collectively we say, Amen. Amen. Let's go in.
I love that. I love that prayer. It just has all the right things in it, right? You know, and it's not too long.
It got written by our community, actually. I would do a prayer and then say, you know, you should also pray for those you have strife with. And okay, the producer.
I love that.
Pray for the planet too, Dr. Whimsy. So I got, over the years, I put that into it. And so it was kind of like the community created the prayer.
Your community is awesome. It's one of the best, I think, personally. Great people. So we're going to read about the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. They just said there was going to be a surprise. I hope it's a good surprise. I'm sorry?
Your spirit guides just said that?
Yeah, they just said there's going to be a surprise. We will be surprised. Okay, not there's going to be one, but we will be surprised. Please let it be good. Please let them impeach him, you know, or whatever is the best, highest good for us, you know. Go ahead. You ready?
Yeah, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay, the first thing is that somebody has put themselves in a pretty bad situation. You can see the base of the matter tied in knots. Trump delayed and he did not adequately prepare for this trial. I don't think he took it seriously. He was so lost in his fantasies about I'm number 45, I'm number 45. This guy's mental health is so gone. What's the point of sending him anywhere other than a psych hospital? I mean, he really believes this stuff. Yeah. Cutting and pasting presidential seal stuff on
I saw that.
to after SAG. I mean, this man's insane. So It's almost like herding a rabid dog because they're rabid. Yeah, you kind of have to do it, but it's, you know, the guy's bonkers. So his base card is like tied in knots. He didn't adequately prepare for this trial. It's going to be open. They're going to allow us to see it. You can see the world. So I think that I would not be surprised if there were cameras there from Europe and all over.
Mm.
This is world attention. Look at that. Fighting. They're going to try and dismiss stuff. You can see the lawyers fighting. We have victory as victory coming in.
Yay.
But he's not well. I think if anything's going to end this trial, based on what I'm seeing here, it's going to be because he's not mentally competent to stand trial.
Oh, wow. Maybe that's the surprise. Wow.
It looks like some crash, and I worry that the suicidal or mental, he's so delusional. Yes. Anybody that would behave like this, he thought he was going to march on to the steps of Congress.
Right.
He's insane.
He's insane.
So the cards suggest he may not be able to, he's not ready for the trial, and he's not mentally able to be in this trial.
Well, you know, that would help Mitch McConnell if they could somehow if he had a breakdown, a mental breakdown, or some kind of, you know, reason of insanity thing. You know what I mean? That would let McConnell off the hook, I think, and put Donald back in the little room and let everybody go on about their ways. So I got the first, what I did was a 3-card spread. So I just got where we came from, our previous, where we were, and I got the 4 swords. I use the same thing that Sheila of Celtic Tarot does. So for you guys that don't, it's rest and recuperation, basically, you know, recovering from conflict or illness. I mean, that's pretty much you can't make this stuff up. That's exactly where America was, you know, when he was president. Right. Where we are now, the sun, which is a great card. I mean, so much hope. I think Biden is leading the way. And I think that's just, there's reason for hope. That's what I get with this. There's reason for hope right now. And that's beautiful as well. And then the outcome, if you will, is the Emperor card. So, you know, authority, patriarchy, it's kind of similar to justice or judgment in a sense, right? Foundation, leadership, you know, I kind of feel like sanity. I
call it the prefrontal cortex card.
Yeah. So I think those are good cards. I feel good about that. I feel better about it, actually.
Yeah, I did throw a couple cards last week, and it ended with the Tower crash in about a couple of weeks. And so I don't know, like something pulls everyone away from the trial towards this other emergency or something. That's kind of like what it looked like. And I was wondering if it was going to be the stock market but if you want to continue doing 3 cards, you want to just check the stock market to try and
yeah.
Because I got a bad feeling about the stock market in February.
I have too. And I can't explain it. I mean, other than it's inflated, you know what I mean?
Real.
It's not really based on reality.
Yeah. So we'll just do 3-card Montes from now on, because you're right, so that we can get to everything.
Well, I'm just not a professional tarot card reader. You know what I mean? This is kind of like, and then the guides start talking and I don't know who to listen to. I can't handle all that information. It's too much for me.
Some of the best readers in the world, like Linda G, she does mostly intuition, you know?
She's very good. Absolutely.
Amazing, yeah.
What a wonderful community we have, right? I mean, 3 years ago, we didn't have this, and this literally saved my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that, you know, sunny days, woohoo! But unfortunately, we have leadership coming in over the market, and then this is going to be exposed. Wow. So there's some naughty stuff going on that's probably going to require the market, the clarification. Yeah, we've got fast moving. Look at this. There's some crazy stuff going on in the market.
Oh, did you get the
Oh,
sun
that's
too?
fast movement. Yeah. Well, the final outcome is that the party is coming to an end.
That is not good.
Yeah, because you can see devil, addiction, wheeling, dealing, corruption coming to an end. This goes back to what Elizabeth Warren was saying, that she's very happy to be on the finance committee.
Me too. I'm happy she's on the finance committee. And you know, to some degree, I'm happy that Warren and Bernie and some other people can be outside agitators, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we need that. We need some kind of outside influence as well, even on the Biden administration. You know, we need to check some balances.
Well, we have 4 or 5 parties within the 2-party system. You know?
Yes, that's true.
We've got the liberal progressives, which are really not Democrats. We're liberals and progressives. I mean, we're in the Democratic Party, but I don't think that the Democratic Party totally represents everything that I stand for. It doesn't go far enough.
Yeah,
and we have the middle of the row. Then we have the conservatives like Joe Manchin.
Like Joe Manchin, yeah.
You know, and then who's opposed to birth control or the Planned Parenthood. And then you have the crazy Lulus on the Republican side, and then you have the Republicans who are basically the same as Joe Manchin's.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah. But you know, the Republicans have always marched in lockstep. You know, that's one thing that's been different about the Republicans and the Democrats. We're like cats. You're not going to hurt us together. We're going to all like go our own way. And it's very hard to get us all focused on one direction. But the Republicans have always been like that, you know?
Yeah. So what are your cards saying about this?
So when I got, so I've got, the first card I got was lack of foresight. I got the 3 of Wands, but reversed. The 3 of Wands reversed. So lack of foresight. So that's where we were, which is so true, right? Lack of foresight. Like we didn't pay attention. There were no regulations. There was nobody watching the hen house except for the fox. And then I got the 4 swords again. And the outcome I got was the devil.
Yeah.
So we both got similar cards in that regard, that I guess we need a correction, right? The bubble's got to burst, and then we've got to get back down to reality.
Yeah, I think so too. My friend who is in the stock market quite a bit, he said that he thought it might not happen until March, but I don't know. Every time I meditate on February, I always just got black, because, but I do think we'll start to come out of this dark period around March, because the vaccinations are happening so fast now. I mean, I feel like the sun is finally starting to come out. Like there's finally that feeling that Biden's here. But yeah, I feel very nervous about the market.
I do too.
Too inflated.
And then the banks. I mean, what do you think about how that could affect the banks or affect our, you know, the rest of the economy?
Well, that's an interesting thing too, because, for example, everybody is leaving California, so everybody's selling their houses. Then we also have COVID. So a lot of estates are gone. People died. So
that's so true.
Yeah, and people died that didn't think they were going to die. People died in their 60s,
yes.
60s, 70s. So all these estates are up in the air. People can't sell the estate. They're going to go into foreclosure because their kids don't have the money to pay for all of this.
Yep.
So they'll sell, but nobody's buying. So that could cause an influx of some markets for the housing to really drop. I think that housing will drop in California.
I think so too. And then what about all the commercial buildings that are now empty because everybody's working from home?
Oh, I think that those will get turned into lofts like they did.
I hope so.
Downtown, we did that in downtown Los Angeles. All those factory buildings from those textile factories, they just turned them into these gorgeous lofts, and all the artists went down and bought them out. They put some plumbing in, and it was great. So I wouldn't, if they can turn those into condos and lofts and artist lofts, that'd be great. But you want us to look at the housing market next?
Sure. Or affordable housing. It'd be great if they turned some of them into affordable housing, you know?
Yeah. But we'll do a 3 cards on
housing. Okay.
Yeah, on the housing market. Well, I see a buyer's market around August.
August. Okay, August.
Yeah, I mean, the sell is coming to an end because it was a seller's market before. You can see the karmic wheel is changing, Five of Swords moving in. A lot of people are losing homes, giving up their homes. And you can see an Eight of Wands. Sometimes I read that as a strife, but it's a quick. It's also my August card. So I think by August, things will probably be stabilized and people will start buying again. But I think we could see more and more flips, more and more foreclosures, more and more people losing, trying to get rid of their houses, but then it goes the other way. It goes towards a buyer's market in August. That's what I think.
That's I mean, that it could be worse.
Yeah. 6 months though to stabilize it, I think.
So I came up with temperance. Whoops, my cards just all collapsed. The temperance card for our past, which makes sense to me, you know, kind of a balancing, moderation, patience. These things keep coming up. The Nine of Swords, suffering, anxiety. This is our current situation. But I got an outcome of the Two of Cups. So hopefully, you know what that feels like to me is it feels like the government coming in and helping people with maybe better loans or lower interest rates, or, you know, maybe Two of Cups means, you know, like a government, private, you know, or some kind of combination, some kind of help.
I agree. I think that's definitely going to happen because Elizabeth Warren is terrified about the foreclosure problem. She's on it. So let's go ahead. We'll look at student loan forgiveness next.
Okay? Yes. Oh, fun. Student loan forgiveness.
Whoa, geez, Louise, that's awesome.
I'm glad you followed that whoa up, but that's awesome because I was.
The federal government is going to buy student loans off the banks that have high interest.
Oh my God. Rates. That would be a big game.
What happened was you had these private loans and the banks didn't want to give up the loans because they were charging, you know, 10% or whatever. But look, there's something's going to happen with the federal government coming in and buying out personal loans. And then the person would have the loans through the federal government. And then the federal government gives you a forgiveness. So this looks like it's also going to involve Warrens and also Bernie Sanders, because it's talking about, I just want to do one more throw on this because this is, it's looking like something happens where the banks, 6 months.
Fantastic. That's the best news.
Yeah, this looks like Elizabeth Warren is going to be working on this.
I love that.
They're taking it from the bank. So if you inherit it, or, you know, if you find yourself in a financial debt, but it's not, it's private loans, this is looking like a deal to bail out students with private loans within the next.
See, that makes so much sense. Because people have been angry. I don't understand it, but people have been angry that they paid their student loans off, let's say 6 months ago, and now you're going to get them for free. But really what you're suggesting, the energy suggesting, is that the right thing happens. The government buys these high interest rate loans at a deal and then gives it's back the way it used to be, right? Remember when you used to get a student loan, it was a very low interest loan.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so and then once that portion of the interest is forgiven and you're taken up by the American federal government, the loan, then you can work out your payment directly through the government. That seems to be what they're saying.
And you can pay it off. Some of these people have been paying for 20 years and haven't even touched the principal. I mean, it's basically like a highway robbery.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So that's what people don't realize, is that they did pay their student loans back.
True. Yeah.
Many times over. So yeah, so that looks to be what they're working on. So that looks good to me.
So I don't know how many times I've gotten this card. I'm telling you guys, I am shuffling and shuffling and shuffling and shuffling. But in the past, this is always the past position, is the Four of Swords.
Yeah, nothing.
It's crazy. I can't believe it. It's nuts.
Past.
Rest and recuperation, right?
Well, nobody was doing anything under the. Do you think Trump cared?
No,
He wasn't doing anything.
no, he was absent. He was on the golf course. And then I got the 10 of Pentacles for our current situation. So I think this is the same thing, working, working with the money, trying to figure out how to help people. And then oddly, so this is great. So I got the Devil in reverse, which is like reclaiming your power. So I think that makes perfect sense, in a very, like tarot light, and your tarot,
Right.
you get the whole Monty. I just Monty light over here.
No, you did great. That was so much fun. I really liked working with you. Will you come back again?
I'd be happy to. I'm thrilled. I'm your biggest fan, basically.
Oh, well, I'm a fan now of you. That was awesome. You said that you were getting just familiar with the reading. So you're like other mediums. You just read, right? Yeah. So you don't need the cards.
It just comes in. Like I said, everybody starts talking. The cards are talking. They're talking. It's like, y'all, that's too many things going on.
Yeah. That's good. I started off like that, but now that I've learned the cards, I really enjoy it. I enjoy working with them.
I love your spread. I love how you do your spread, because in the heart, like the heart of the matter, this house, what is that spread? Is it a whimsy spread, or is it a spread?
It's a 12 card. It's a Celtic cross with 2 additional. So it's 12. I always felt the Celtic cross needed 12. So the base card is the 11th.
Okay.
People will look at the bottom to see what is hidden, or what I call the base of the matter. What we're really talking about is what's on the bottom. But I and other readers started noticing there was information on the second behind it. And I talked to other readers, like, have you noticed that when you look at the base, that behind it there's a card? They're like, yeah, it's kind of like, it's almost like a karma card, like it's the hidden problem. It's like the base of the matter and then the hidden problem. So I added, because that kept happening, I felt like the Celtic cross spread wasn't complete. I feel like it needs those 2 bottom cards. And so I just started doing it. And then I started noticing other readers were having the same thing. So perhaps there was at one time 12 stars, 12 cards, and I call it a chart because it's a card chart. You have astrological cards, you have card chart, you have 12 houses, in. So that's why I do it that way. But I've noticed
that's why I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So other people are doing the same thing. A lot of readers have started doing 2 bases at the bottom, because people just notice that, like my friend Darlene Christopher, she does that. She uses 2 bases. So
awesome. So do you have like a few minutes to tell us how you got into remote viewing?
Oh, before we close, how I got into remote viewing. Well, because of how I was born in a hostage situation, which we've talked about a lot on my channel. I was born into a rather scary situation growing up. So I did have to develop a lot of, being a hypersensitive, it's kind of like the worst possible situation for an empath to be in. It would be like an empath, well, it was an empath in a hostage situation. But just taking 57 years of your life to get your head on straight after something like that. Because what happens, particularly to young people who've been in hostage situations, is that they don't get medical attention, which is the first thing you need, is to, okay, we've gotten you out of that situation, you need medical attention, and then you need justice. Instead, what happens to people that come out of those situations is they just have more head trips dumped on them. They become the diagnosed patient. Then religion gets a hold of them. You need Jesus in your life, or you need Buddha in your life, or you need whatever. No, they need medical attention. And then the New Age movement gets a hold of you. This was back in the 80s when there was a lot of victim bashing going on. Well, in a previous life, what? I was a hostage because I was a pirate? What? So by the time the average survivor is 40, 50, they're pretty messed up. But I think for a lot of sensitive and empaths, we become aware of the fact that our hypersensitivity allowed us to survive. It wasn't always fun being hypersensitive,
No.
but it's a skill you develop if you want to stay alive. So, I mean, an example of that would be AOC hiding in her bathroom because of what she had gone through. She had that hypersensitivity, hearing the tone of the man's voice, the aggression, knowing, trying to find a place to hide. Those are skills that kept her alive that day.
That's true.
Because if she had simply been there and thinking everything would be okay, somebody would have killed her because they were coming to kill her. But she had that hypersensitivity. So part of it was growing up in an environment where I had to be hypersensitive to stay alive, because I literally was living in the same house as the kidnapper for 15 years. The other thing that I think helped me with remote viewing is I just started studying other people that were doing different types of remote viewing, whether it was, Silva mind control. Then when I was in Israel, this is when I actually got to meet people that were government remote viewers in the Israeli, and they did demonstrations also. The Israeli army would do demonstrations and show off, and it would be a lot of fun. And I was dating this guy who was a reporter. And he said, hey, they're going to do a demonstration of psychic phenomenon or whatnot. And so that was how I got really interested in it, started studying the different techniques. I didn't formally train, but I studied and I started getting into it. And then I got interested in the bond techniques, Buddhist meditation techniques with empathy. And I started seeing that all the different ritual techniques shamans were using had 5 specific aspects. And that's how I developed HCRV. HCRV is just me, because I'm a medical anthropologist and a naturopathic doctor. So I was traveling all over the world studying things like the trance state, beliefs, etc. And I started noticing whether you were a shaman in Peru or somebody who was doing healing work in another area, they all had 5 aspects: get yourself safe, get yourself into a trance, abide in the energy, direct focus towards target, download information, close ceremony, cut cords. So it always had the same 5 elements. So I think of HCRV as just very natural. It's what you'll find in any, if you go to an evangelical church, you'll see the 5 steps. Right? They abide with Christ, then they go into a trance state, they start speaking in tongues.
Right.
And then they will close the church service. They'll bid everyone a good day. They'll do their closings.
They'll put the rattlesnakes up.
They'll pick the rattlesnakes up. They'll drink the strychnine, right? That's the trance state. And they're protected because they're in the trance state.
Right.
And then they'll pray for others, right? The target, right? They'll do their targeted work. And then they'll go back, they'll close service. So it's always, no matter if you're in the Appalachians with the snake charmers or you're in Peru, you will always see consistently the same 5. In any church, it's the same 5 steps.
That is fascinating. I mean, that is fascinating that you connected all of these different cultures with 5 steps. That is truly fascinating to me. Yeah. Really.
And it shows that being empathetic is part of our humanity. It's something that we can't lose.
Yes.
Our ability to love and have compassion for others and feel their pain, whether it's praying for another person in church or doing what you and I do. So.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. That is so cool.
Thank you so much for being with me today. I need you to stay while I say goodbye to everybody. If you're trying to get into a reading with Susan Lynn, how do they reach you? They can go to Susan Lynn at Gmail. Is that it? At Gmail?
My email is susanlynn@gmail.com. You can go to my website, susanlynnmedium.com. I have a YouTube channel, Susan Lynn Medium on YouTube. Maybe we can do a link to because it's hard to find YouTube channels sometimes, but yeah, Yeah.
I will absolutely do the link. Thank you, everybody. I know this went long, but
Thank you, guys.
You were so fascinating. Absolutely, I have to come back again. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Give a nice smile.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.